Well, welcome everybody to Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries. I'm really pleased to introduce you today to my friend Hal Eisenberg. We met via LinkedIn and the 10 Tips 10 Days Challenge. He had a tip where he was describing what his 2020 was like, and it was just kind of one crisis after another. And then I got to know him a little bit better, and we chatted on the phone. Actually, we had another Zoom call, and I got to know him better, and I realized that there's just a pattern of courage and real grit in his life story. And I'd love it, Hal, if you could introduce yourself, first of all, like who you are, what you do, where you live, and how old you are.
Mhm.
And then I want to hear kind of about your life story leading up to this year.
Sure. Where do I start? So my name is Hal, as you mentioned. I live in New York City. So I'm in the five boroughs. I love New York. I have visited many places around the world that I feel like I'm a global citizen. So sometimes I think it's weird to say I'm from New York, even though I was born and raised, but I love this planet and I love so many different areas on this planet. I am the CEO and founder of two organizations. One's called Windows of Opportunity, which is a not-for-profit agency that's all about giving youth a voice and thinking outside the box and doing these really great, amazing empowerment and leadership programs. And then I have a for-profit company called the Eisenberg Leadership Academy because I'm super passionate about education reform and shifting systems. And more than ever, especially with what's happening now in education, we have to really look at those systems and really talk about what the future of education looks like. So that's me in a nutshell. I think it's funny that you asked me how old I am.
I ask everybody.
This is an ongoing joke in my life. So I have lied about my age to everyone under the sun, and everyone knows I'm lying, right? So I've got it down when people are like, "Oh yeah, well, what year were you born?" And I was like, 1988. So so I tell everybody I'm 32, which is totally not true, Susan. And because I love you and your show so much, first time publicly ever, I'm going
Uh-oh.
to admit my real age. I actually just turned 50.
Excellent. Well, I think 50 is a great age. It's long in my rearview mirror, but I hope you find your 50s as mine was really a time of kind of rediscovery and that sort of thing. So I hope you find the same.
100%. That's exactly what I'm finding now. And I'm kind of looking at like this is the halfway mark, and I'm looking forward to the next half a century.
Very good. Well, I'm really honored that we got the real deal here.
It's like the big announcement.
Well, don't invite your friends to watch because then they'll know.
The last 10 years has been like a phenomenal journey. So I'm not who I was 10 years or 20 years ago.
Sure.
Now looking back, I'm like, I was a kid then.
Yeah.
Now I can see like this is like excitement to like what's next. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, very good, very good. So why don't you tell us a little bit of your life story? Like I said, kind of in the introduction, I found it so engaging. I mean, it was really compelling story.
Thanks. So I have a book that just came out called Beautiful Souls, and it's a reality fiction. And I created it as a reality fiction so that people who were actually real characters in my life could stay anonymous. And I changed a little bit of the scenery and took a little bit of first time writers freedom to tell a story. And the reason I wrote this book though is because looking back, the journey and what I've experienced has been truly amazing and beautiful. And when you read it, you would think that somebody wouldn't say that it was truly beautiful and amazing. I went through a very, very difficult childhood. I was on the streets when I was 16. I was homeless. And in my struggles, I developed a drug and alcohol habit. I've been clean 30 plus years now, which is really great.
Congratulations. Mhm.
Thank you. It's weird to say that I've been clean. It's like not even in the scope.
In
You
your
know, I don't put
reality
any my
anymore. Yeah.
reality. I don't put foreign substances in my body at all. Then though, I was a lost kid. I went through homelessness. I went through drug addiction. I went through many challenges. I didn't really have a lot of strong values like growing up at all, and I was lost. And I went through that whole journey of trying to discover who I was. And within that, a million and one things have happened, which is all in the book.
So in that discovery, I mean, you told me that you had a very special relationship with your aunt, right?
Yes, my parents, when I was growing up, raised me. I had one set of grandparents on my dad's side, and I never could understand why I didn't have a set of parents, you know, on my mom's side, because my mom was also removed from her home when she was 16, and I grew up kind of not knowing her side of the family. So I'm going through this homeless stage, and I'm you know, diving into drugs and alcohol, and all of a sudden this lady pops up like an angel, and she's like, "I'm your aunt." What do you mean, my aunt? And we ended up developing a relationship, and she became a mother to me, and she was the first adult in my life that was instilling values and hope in me. And shortly after we met, and when I say shortly, it was just a few years, 9/11 occurred. And my aunt was, she was my role model. She was working with youth in Rhode Island. She was working with crack addicted babies in New York City. She worked on Wall Street during the day, and she was a nurse. And when 9/11 happened, she was a first responder. She went to ground zero every day for 6 months. I was on the phone with her when the second plane hit. And I have to tell you, Susan, I don't even, there's no words in the English language to describe the sound on the phone, and the horror that was the energy in the air. It's
Ugh.
something that will stay with me forever. And from the chemicals that she ended up breathing in at ground zero, within a little bit over a year, she passed away suddenly at the age of 49, which is weird to say because I just realized I'm actually
Yes.
older than,
You're older than she ever got to be.
yeah, which is like, wow, that just hit me now. And and she was the one. I had this idea. I had just started working with youth a little bit. I had just started thinking about going back to school to be a social worker, and my hair was twice as long, and I was like, no one's going to listen to me, and who am I going to be able to help? And I was like, somebody has to create some kind of company to give kids like me a voice. And she was always the one, you know, sitting in diners over a cup of coffee at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, chase your dreams, go after it. You have what it takes. You have a light, and you know, you could have that courage. All you have to do is decide. It was the
Mm-hmm.
only adult in my life that was telling me that. And I heard the lessons, but I wasn't ready to act on that
Mm-hmm.
until she passed away. And that became my catalyst to open windows of opportunity. Since then, I've reached 300,000 children, tons of programs, some projects globally all over the world. I've seen many countries. I've done projects in different countries, and I feel truly blessed to, you know, 3,100 lives were lost that day, plus how many first responders. You can never bring resolution to that pain.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I love about the universe is out of tremendous pain can become tremendous success, and you can make a difference. So I like to think from that pain, that's what I'm doing in her memory and memory of everybody that was lost on 9/11.
Right. And that's amazing. And kudos to you for, you know, making lemonade out of lemons, because that really was huge day, you know, huge era in the history of our country, but also in the personal lives of so many people. I mean, and I don't know anyone who hasn't been touched in some way. Like mine was kind of indirect. I had a friend who had a friend who was working in one of the towers.
Mhm.
um but you know, that's pretty darn close, but you had it like close up and personal. And the fact that you really, because of the strength of your own thoughts, really, that your aunt had helped kind of plant the seeds for, you're able to make so much good in the world. So what does Windows of Opportunity, what is your mission there?
So the mission behind Windows is truly, I use this phrase a lot, for youth by youth. What I really see Windows is giving youth that voice, the voice to be able to do and be anything that they want. They're immersed in a system that on many, many levels silence them. They are told when to show up, how to show up, what to do, what material to regurgitate, and a lot of the education system is surrounding testing and teacher evaluations. And this isn't true 100%, but in many places, students are silenced. They're not given the platform to make changes and to see the light inside of them. And I truly believe that if you give youth the platform and you help them to develop their voices, they can accomplish anything they set their minds to. And I've seen it over and over and over again consistently. I have worked with youth that have started their own companies that they've run for over a decade, that they started
Wow.
when they were 15 years old. Students that before they started that company were suicidal, and they realized how powerful they were as a human being, and then they took that light and they ran with it. I have students that have run conferences and workshops at universities where they've 14, 15, 16 years old teaching at a university and being a professor for a day. So there's no boundaries, there's no limits. And then they get inspired and they realize, wow, I really do have a voice. I really can do what I set my mind to.
Hmm.
The drawing on the cover of my book is done by one of my former students who was being told that we had to transfer her out of the school and that she wasn't going to amount to anything because all she would do in class is doodle. And I realized that she had an art skill, and we used her art to inspire her and put her on school projects and big projects, and her self-esteem increased, and then her grades increased. So when you
Sure.
look at the social emotional side, which is a big new hot term in education,
Mhm.
you look at the social emotional side. If you really, really vamp that out, the academics are
They
going to
follow
follow.
because the kids really get energized by their own accomplishment. And that's kind of one of the things I always say about courage with Courage Rises is it's transformative. And that is a little bit of it makes you feel like there's more of it, right? And a little bit of success makes you realize there can be more success. A little bit of courage makes you realize you can be more courageous. It's,
100%.
yeah, and everything follows, right?
Absolutely. And I was gonna say that when you think about being transformative, and you think about having that power as a youth, isn't it great that we have that power now as adults? I'm still learning. I go up to Toronto before they close the borders. I go up to Toronto once a month to take part in what I call my tribe, where we're learning and supporting one another, and we're expanding our knowledge, and we're looking for deeper answers and to do deeper projects. Learning is fun for me now. It's a lifetime process, and we get to continue to be transformative no matter what age we are. And I think that's courage.
Yeah, I think so too. I worked a corporate job for a lot of years, and it wasn't until I got my first taste of entrepreneurship that I thought, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was never introduced to that as a kid or even as a young adult. Or as a middle-aged person. Here I am. I retired at 59 from my corporate job, and I'm reinventing myself, right? And it's like
100%.
it's never too late. It's never too early and it's never too late.
Absolutely. I think it was Gallup. There's a statistic out there. 75% of American workers, I think it's North American workers, are disengaged. 70 to 75% of teachers are disengaged in the system, which means only 25 to 30% of the people in North America are inspired or passionate about what they're doing.
Mm.
That's a huge number when you're looking at the millions and millions of people that we have in North America. Like, what what does that say, right?
Hmm.
And if we can learn how to reinvent ourselves or reignite ourselves at a younger age, and we can connect to that power and that light, courage should be an automatic, right?
Yeah. Who knows what could happen?
That's right.
Yeah.
You could shift the entire planet.
Yeah. It would. Yeah. That's a fascinating thought.
Hmm. People call me an idealist, and sometimes I sit back and I work with I'm really blessed to collaborate with some really awesome agencies. One is called the Passion Center in Toronto, and we have these conversations all the time. And it really comes down to like, I actually don't want to think I'm an idealist anymore. I want to think that this is the reality. And as a nation and as a planet, there's many of us that are moving in that direction.
That is very interesting. And I was just looking back at my notes from our conversation the other day, and one of the things that came up was about labels and having to keep up the expectation of labels. And I love that you kind of segued right into that with this, don't want to call yourself an idealist anymore. It was something about, people get labeled early and they hear it over and over, they start to believe it, but there's a whole set of expectations that comes with it.
100%. Especially myself, and I see it all over the place. When you're labeled and stereotyped that you have a diagnosis, or you are a no good kid, or you're just going to have a life. I've seen it. Adults tell kids all the time, "Oh, you're going to be working in McDonald's. You're like that's necessarily a bad thing."
Mm.
So many people would love to have a job at McDonald's.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to have a life of drugs. I was stereotyped the same way. I was actually often, because of my hair and my appearance, called a drug dealer when I was younger, and I hadn't even seen drugs. But what happened was I ended up playing into that stereotype. It became, as a teenager that didn't know that I had light or power inside, it became, well, that's what I'm supposed to be. Then I'm gonna play that stereotype. And that I've seen in all stages of my life, even as my hair got a little shorter and a little shorter. Even now, when I walk into a high school, I walk into a room of 100 people about to do a professional development, you always get those eyes of,
Who is this guy? Yeah.
can he teach? Like, we're going to learn from him. And then all the time, often, I wouldn't say from everyone, but all the time I get, that was amazing. I didn't expect that. And I'm like, well, why didn't you expect that? Right?
Hmm. Because
Becomes
of how you
that
label
stereotype,
somebody, right?
right?
it's
And
it's
we
kind
all
of,
do it.
we all do it. It's the
Yes.
old don't judge a book by its cover. I'm fascinated that so much more open to seeing the human underneath the label or underneath the outward appearance. I'm fascinated. It's like I'm waiting. It's like, what's under there that that I haven't seen, that I don't know.
Right. Right.
Um,
And what's really amazing, Susan, is we tend to also label ourselves without realizing it.
oh, that is
For
so true.
example, it's like, I know we're going to get into the story in a few minutes. When people think that they have a diagnosis, they think that their life is over. The society sends us a message, or we send ourselves a message, that I can't do this, I can't be this, I hate my job, but I need to have a paycheck. I wish I could chase that dream, but it's just not in my cards, not this lifetime.
Hmm.
We have this negative talk, and we stereotype ourselves that things aren't possible. And really, it takes one shift in language to say to yourself, to look in the mirror and say, I approve of myself, I love myself. Everything that is happening to me is always in my best interest. Even if it doesn't look like it, every challenge that I've had, that I face, or that I'm even currently facing, is a blessing and an opportunity for me to transform and grow who I am and who my soul is. And when
Yes.
you get into that space, you start attracting solutions and people in your life to elevate you. And I think that's what this journey is all about.
And I 100% agree with that. But let's hear a little bit about your 2020 story,
Yeah.
which is what kind of sucked me into your universe in the first place as you were talking about it.
Thank you. My 2020 story actually started in 2018.
Okay.
It's been a 2-year, 1-year story, and it started in December of 2018. I went into a conference in Toronto in the beginning of December, and I met my new tribe of like-minded spiritual thinkers. So December started out really amazing and wonderful, and then halfway through the month, I'm on this high, and all of a sudden I doubled over in pain, and I went to the restroom, and tremendous amount of blood came out. So I went to the doctor. The short version of the story is I had a tumor in my bladder that was the size of an orange. And New Year's Eve, I was rushed in surgery to remove the tumor. By Valentine's Day of 2019, I was back in the hospital because the first doctor didn't get it all. He didn't have really great bedside manners. I really got to see a broken medical system.
Oh,
I had to like do some research because the first time around, there was so much like fast, like I had to find the doctor, go into surgery. I'd never been in that experience. And I was scared. I was scared. I
of
was
course.
crying. I was crying every day. And this tribe in Toronto was contacting me and saying, breathe, we just met you, but you got this. You know, this is what you have to do. And I got introduced to meditation and affirmations. So February, I go into the hospital. I find a new doctor. He gets all the cancer. I do 6 weeks of treatment. By April, the cancer is gone. And I'm like, okay, universe, like, what was that? Like,
Yeah.
I got diagnosed and I was like clean just like that.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I went to Italy with the Passion Center and had a great experience through one of their programs. And then I came back and I hit a lot of like emotional, stressful things that were tearing on my body. And by the end of 2019, I started to not feel well again. And in early January, I fell to the floor one night. I was tuning into my body, but I didn't really know how to tune into my body. I knew I
Mhm.
was pushing myself, and I was an
You were
emotional
ignoring your
wreck.
body. Yeah.
I was ignoring my body. And the short version is I had two large kidney stones that had fused together and they couldn't get it out. So the doctor went in to get it and they had to put a stint in. And he said, while I'm in here, you know, you're due to do another biopsy. The cancer isn't there, but let's do a biopsy anyway. So they did the biopsy. Forget about the kidney stones. We found out that the cancer had come back. And then so now we're moving from January to February of 2020. And that's when COVID started
Mm.
to hit the
Show
news
up.
waves
Mhm.
and show up and rear its ugly head. And the doctor was, I was a mess. I was a wreck. I said, I can't believe the cancer's back. I was ready to give up. I thought I was gonna die. I was trying to tap into these spiritual lessons, but they weren't landing to me in that moment
Yeah.
of trauma and crisis. And
They
thank
were
God,
sliding off. Yeah.
yeah, and thank God I had the souls around me that came to my side and supported me. I think a lot of the courage that I found was really thanks to that tremendous love and support that was there. And then mid-March, so the doctor gave me two options. And in those two options, neither option felt great. And I didn't know what choice to make. So I needed my support system to help me through those choices. So I'm telling you this because this really ties into like a bigger story.
Okay.
So the choices I had to make, I finally made one of the two choices. But just as I made those choices, I got COVID and I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks. So this is right at the onset of COVID. So mid-March to early April, I was what felt like I was on my deathbed. It was, I could say now, I don't know what cancer is supposed to feel like. And
Right.
it's really hard for me to say I have cancer because there's cancer in my body. So I don't like to take that ownership of that I have cancer.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people who are struggling with cancer have it or are experiencing a lot worse than I'm experiencing. So I still can't really verbally say what cancer feels like. I can tell you what my experience has been and what I've gone through
Right.
with treatments. COVID, though, that took me out. That doctors and nurses, as much as there's so many heroes and stories out there, and they should be celebrated for what they did, the
Mhm.
hospitals were overcrowded. Nobody knew treatment. They were trying malaria drugs. They were giving me drugs that they were like, oh, don't worry. The side effect is you're going to have some emotional anxiety, possible, mental attacks, So
Mhm.
here I am at 2 o'clock in the morning after taking this medication, feeling like I've got bugs crawling inside of
Oh
me.
no, that sounds awful.
It's horrible. I couldn't breathe. It took me about 2.5 months to fully recover. When I fully recovered, well, actually, let me rewind a little bit. Before I fully recovered, I got out and went to talk to the cancer doctor, and he was like, because of COVID, all your options are off the table. They closed down all trial drugs and they closed down all major surgeries.
Oh my
So
gosh.
but it became a blessing, Susan,
Okay.
because, and I didn't see it at the time. All of a sudden, I was faced with, I need to find the courage within to
Hmm.
heal myself. I need to reach in, because all I have now is my faith. All I have now is myself, God, and the universe. And I have to sit here and say, all right, what do I need to do? Because there are no options. We're so trained, talked about stereotypes and labels, to turn to medical, and the doctor says you need a massive surgery that's going to change the rest of your life. It's horrible, but
Mm.
we're trained to say,
Okay.
okay,
You're the expert. Yeah.
you're the expert. I'm going to do that, which is a really interesting experience because fast forward, the universe works in magical ways. The doctor ended up putting me on 6 weeks of the old treatment that obviously didn't work the first time.
Mm.
And it ended up not working again. But by the
Okay.
time, the week that it stopped, and he said, we have to look at options, the trial drug was approved by the FDA, which I'm
Oh.
now on, that's showing 80% success rate in getting rid of cancer. So it was like this miracle that everything lined up, because I was staying positive, and I said, I beat Corona. I really thought I was going to die. There was a moment where I was ready to check out, and my friend said, you have a choice right now. You could check out or you could fight
Hmm.
this. What do you
Hmm.
choose? And I chose to stay because I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to still stay with the cancer because I'm going to beat this, and I'm fighting.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. It's like a perfect storm of everything that could have happened over these last couple of years has happened, and the quintessential 2020 horror story hit you as well. But that is awesome. I mean, you have to stay positive and you have to actually decide to go on.
Uh, Not only do I have to decide to go on, Susan, so many people are saying 2020 is the worst year ever. And I have to honestly say that 2020 and 2019, my life has never been as beautiful as it is now.
Now
It's,
that's amazing.
yeah, I could sit here and say, I almost died from Corona. I have cancer in my body and I might not beat this, but none of that feels right. What I truly, truly learned the last 2 years is to love myself, and the power of loving yourself and having the courage to look at who you are and what you're about and how you stand in the light, and how you surround yourself with what you deserve, and all that love is healing. And when you speak to your body and you have the courage to look, anything is possible. And
Hmm.
being in that place and really finally learning that at this point in my life, I can't say anything except that 2020 was the best year of my life.
Wow. And that's an amazing statement. That's, I mean, just full stop. That's an amazing statement.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you, because in our conversations, you've seemed nothing but upbeat, forward thinking. I got this. I'm moving on. Life is good, and you very easily could have had a very sad story to tell.
Absolutely. And I could tell the sad story. And it's really interesting. I think I mentioned this to you when we were first talking. I get really nervous about my book. My book is gigantic, by the way. It's as long as War and Peace.
Oh my gosh.
And I joke with people because the original manuscript was actually twice as long. So like this is the shortened version.
Wow.
And 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 in the book, it's a sad story, except it builds up to a very similar message that I just shared with you. And it really worries me because I didn't want people to get the wrong idea, because in the sadness are tremendous blessings. and
Hmm.
and that's the point of the book. The book's called Beautiful Souls because what I want on this planet more than anything is for everybody to realize that they're a beautiful story,
Hmm.
they're a beautiful soul, and that we shouldn't be stereotyping, and that there is another perspective to look at it, whether we're looking at ourselves or the people around us. Forgiveness can be so powerful. Forgiveness is not accepting somebody of their actions. It's freeing yourself and themselves from the negative energy so that both can move forward.
Yeah. I like that. I like that point of view a lot. So when is it going to be published, and where can we get it?
The book is already out. It
Oh,
came out
okay.
a couple of weeks ago. It's on Amazon and
Okay.
Barnes and Noble, and several bookstores are carrying it. It's called
Mhm.
Beautiful Souls. It's it's a great journey, I think. I might be biased, but
Awesome. I can't, yeah, that's an amazing fruit of your willingness to look inside and sort of put out put yourself out there for other people to consume,
it
and to be
was
a role model, and to, yeah.
it took, let me tell you, that took a lot of courage.
I
I think that might have
know.
taken more courage to be vulnerable and share my story,
Yeah.
than it is to fight corona and cancer.
Yeah.
But every bit of my story and every story that I told is a part of this spiritual journey that I got to at this point. And what I want in this book is for everybody to see themselves in the book, because every single one of us on this planet have the power to expand and
Mhm.
learn more about love and loving themselves and loving each other and being one. And I want that to be the norm for
Yeah.
everybody. I want everybody to find that.
Yeah, I do too. I remember with my cancer journey was like 18 years ago. It was a long time ago. I kind of consider it a speed bump, and I felt the same as you. It's like I don't know what cancer feels like. It made me tired, but other than that, it's just somebody tells you it's there and you take their word for it. But it really made me understand love in a whole different way.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I don't know anyone who's had cancer and not changed their point of view on life, you know.
Absolutely. I
Uh,
met a woman right after I got diagnosed the second time, and this was very empowering. She, 12 years ago, stage 4 cancer, and doctor told her to go home, get her things in order. She had 2 weeks. 12 years later, she went home. She told her husband, she's like, absolutely not. She's like, I'm going to find something. I'm going to connect to God, the universe, bless you. I'm going to connect to God, the universe. I'm gonna find other healthy modalities. Fast forward, she started self-talking about loving herself, and 12 years later, cancer's gone, and she's still alive. That's
what a
just shows
miracle.
like how powerful the body is. The body can heal itself,
And the mind. If you
and the
set,
mind.
you have to
Oh
set,
yeah,
yeah, you have to have your mind work on it, right? You have to
absolutely,
change your thoughts, and put them to work for you instead of against you. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's one of the things I'm learning about. So.
I think we all are. And I always tell this to the students I'm working with, or even the adults that I'm speaking to. It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym and you work out, you get muscles. If you don't go to the gym, you get flabby and the muscles go. It's the same thing with positivity and self-love and talking to yourself in a good way. That's a muscle you have to practice. Some people will say, "Oh, but I do talk positive to myself." And I'm like, how many things did you say positive to yourself? Three. How many things did you say negative to yourself today? I lost count, right?
Yeah.
So it's you got to continue. You have to continue working on yourself. There's like an ebb and flow. There's a give and take in this world. You just have to kind of, not beat yourself up on those bad days or those bad moments and say, this is a learning opportunity. I'm far from perfect. My friends will tell you that I'm talking like a really great story right now. I have my bad moments. I have my dives, and my friends are like, Hal, reconnect to your spiritual side. Let's look at those lessons. Let's
Hmm.
let's get you back in that positivity gym, and let's work on that muscle. And it takes a little bit, but we get there, and that's all part of the journey. You have to be okay with going back and forth a little bit.
Yes. I love the idea of a positivity gym. My 10 tips for 10 days today was supposed to be about the power of practice, and it
Mhm.
wasn't because I'm doing it actually about bridging the gap, especially about the election and how kind of unsettled it is right now, and bridging the gap because really 50% of the country said yes and 50% of the country said no, right?
Yeah.
So we got to figure that out. But anyway, I was just thinking about the power of practice. And of course, that's a lot about courage rises. It's transformative. The more you do it, the more courageous you are. But I might just excerpt this little chat of you going to the positivity gym and post that as my tip next week.
Absolutely, you can. Can we talk about 10 tips a little bit? And I
Yeah,
love that you
sure.
brought up politics, because I don't usually talk politics with
Mm,
people, but I
yeah,
think it's such an important conversation.
especially right
I think we
now.
can have a healthy conversation around politics. So
Mm.
like, I just want to shout out the the creators of 10 tips 10 days. I think this, for those of people who don't know what that campaign is about, it's all about different people and professionals, or even people who want to jump in and want to learn how to speak or have ideas. They create one video a day for 10 days, and they can create any topic. And there's a tremendous amount of professionals sharing their expertise basically for free, or their perspectives for free. And then they tag 3 of their friends in the video if they're interested in also joining 10 tips. And so this is the third year that they've done it. It started on 1010 because it's 10 tips 10 days, and there's hundreds of thousands of videos of just people supporting one another and sharing different ideas. I've seen
Just sharing what
videos
they
on
know. Yeah.
sharing what they know, right? We're all just giving each other. It's like a barter system almost.
Mhm.
We're just sharing this beautiful knowledge. So the creators, I'm trying to remember: Bobby, Kira, Jake, Lila,
Lila.
and
Yeah,
Joe. I can't
Joe.
believe I
Mhm.
remember that. All
Yeah, it's
5.
good.
They're phenomenal human beings, all up to great things in the world, and allowing us to also be up to great things in the world. And I think that should be the model for the planet. So this 10 tips 10 days, for those of you who are out there looking at this, it's on LinkedIn. Search that hashtag. You'll see tons of wonderful videos, and it's ongoing. So
And it's
feel
free,
free and it's free. So feel free to jump in and share your
right?
10 tips 10 days.
Yeah, I agree. So mine, this is the first year that I've done it, and I'm still anxious kind of about being live. So I've recorded mine, and and so I look like I'm kind of reading it, but it gives me the opportunity to get
Totally.
my thoughts in order, right? And I'm not doing it every day. It's like I'm doing mine every 3 or 4 days. And
Absolutely.
that is the proper cadence for me. It gives me a chance to wind down from the last one and then think about what I want to present in the next one. But it's awesome. You just have to find that hashtag 10 tips 10 days on LinkedIn, and there's just so much positivity, and there's so much help. Just these tips, these tips that people are sharing are tips that have, transformed their lives, and they want you to have it too. It's like, yeah, the more the merrier.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of great connections and collaborations coming from it. That's
Like
how we found
ours.
each other.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I got in a lot of tips on how to speak as well, because I didn't realize until I was practicing, because I have so much to learn. I love public speaking. I've been teaching in front of kids for years. I love I love doing interviews like this and meeting
Mhm.
people and sharing and connecting and inspiring. And I'm learning tips now, like, because now I'm watching those videos and I'm like, I just said like. I was like, oh, I have to work on all my likes and all my yums. So, but it's great because it's such an opportunity for me to grow in that area. So 10 tips has allowed me to do that as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's been really good. And as you said, it brought us together. And even just in the, we've talked a couple of times, and I find this relationship, just really positive. I'm glad I met you. I'm glad we've had a chance to talk.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you. I feel the connection and the bond, and I'd be more than happy to do more conversations with you and connect you to more people who want to do conversations as well. That would
That would be
love to
great.
be on your show.
Well, I am delighted. I'm delighted to have had you on my show today. Again, this has been Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries and my friend Hal Eisenberg. I will put Hal's information in the chat so you guys know how to get in touch with him. And, he's a very interesting guy. I really encourage you to get to know him. So thanks, Hal.
Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate it.
Hello, this is Susan Jeffries of Courage Rises. Thank you for joining me for episode 11 with Hal Eisenberg. If you have thoughts or experiences to share around the subjects of courage or bravery, or you have a practice of your own on these topics, please email me at susan@couragerises.life. I'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned for episode 12, which will be released on Friday, November 20th. Thank you.